7, 8, 9. You have 9.
Javier Zapata hasn't always been a role model for younger kids. In fact, the 7th grader has had a few run-ins with his teachers. But educators say that Javier has changed, and they credit his improved outlook on a program called Valued Youth.
It makes me more responsible because sometimes I didn't do nothing. I just stayed in class, do nothing. Now I think about things I have to do for them, like the projects and games and work that I have to give them.
The goal of Valued Youth is to keep kids in school. It takes teenagers who are close to dropping out and teams them with younger students who need help with math and reading. The teenagers earn minimum wage for tutoring kids 4 hours a week.
The students are attending school now more often. Their grades are improving.
Happy once, happy twice, happy chicken soup with rice.
Studies show that the program is working. The dropout rate among Valued Youth tutors is less than 2% a year, compared to 12% for a similar group of students who are not in the program. For Javier and other tutors, Valued Youth has given them another reason to stay in school.
It's making me feel better because I know that I'm making them learn. They're getting better.
Health care coverage for approximately 50% of our senior citizens. And we as Americans do that wrong. And so our federal government made a moral contract, if you will, with its people. And it said, help us buy our wars 1.8% a year.
And patience. I do support the right of opinion.
Well, I felt good about the reception I got in this group, and I think I feel good about when the people of Alabama know what the issues are, they know where I stand and where Roger Bedford stands, we'll be in real good shape.
I think it went real well, and we ended up being the clear winner because we talked about real issues that affect working families in Alabama, protecting our senior citizens from unfair cuts in Medicare and Social Security, protecting the educational future of our children, and cracking down on crime.
Over 30 years ago, the private marketplace only provided health care coverage for approximately 50% of our senior citizens. And we as Americans do that wrong.
They're going to perform our national anthem for us. We also have the...
The new Walmart Supercenter opened this morning in Prattville amid much fanfare. There was a high school marching band, drill team, a famous coach, and more than 1,000 eager shoppers ready to plunk down hard cash for what was inside.
We've been sitting here since 6:30 this morning. I come all the way from Clinton.
This is about the second one, but I know what to expect, and I'm going to go in and get all the bargains I can get, and them surprises, too.
You have some inside information?
Oh, yeah.
The new store employs about 450 people, 200 more than the old Walmart across the street. In addition to the housewares, like a regular Walmart, there's a complete grocery store and bakery, floral shop, bank, and McDonald's. There are two similar supercenters in Alabama, all based in smaller communities, Clanton and Tuscaloosa, and now Prattville. Walmart management says that's all part of the strategy.
Walmart likes to go outside of larger metropolitan areas in more rural areas. We seem to be more successful in those areas, smaller communities like Prattville.
Withrop says small-town communities have special needs, which these supercenters are designed to meet. Prattville business leaders believe the large store will be a draw from surrounding communities, including Montgomery. If the initial rush to shop is an indication, it it might be tough to get the shoppers out of the store. Chris Garrett, WSFA News 12, Prattville.
I think it's very important for the next 4 years at least to have a white mayor to work with a majority black city council. And none of the majority black city council, none of them have endorsed me, but they have not endorsed my opposition.
I'm hoping that people have observed through this campaign and through the prior campaign that I have really focused on the issues, have really defined concrete solutions that are doable and workable, and will vote for me because of that. I really think good, solid, sound citizens who are righteous in thought and have a genuine interest in moving our community to the next level can relate to what I am saying and will vote for me.
We are announcing 2 businesses, new businesses in Selma per month for the last year and a half. Our sales tax is up over 16% for the past 2 years, so things look pretty good over here right now.
They show their liberal side, which is I'm glad of because I am a liberal, and it seems like they're more in tune with what the people want.
I think they're trying to scare people, and I hope that the people, when they go to vote in November, will be able to see through some of that.
At the Farmers Market Cafe, the Democratic National Convention got mixed reviews. Between the catfish dinners and the barbecue sandwiches, some called last night's big show a success. Others, though, like County Commissioner Lynn Gowan, thought the Democrats were feeding off people's fears.
I think they're trying to scare people, and I hope that the people, when they go to vote in November, will be able to see through some of that.
The Democrats served up a main course of compassion, followed by a dessert of goodwill, which pleased supporters like Carol Tucker.
They show their liberal side, which is I'm glad of because I am a liberal, and it seems like they're more in tune with what the people want.
Most of the opinions here cut along party lines. Some people say they've already made up their minds, but the convention does give them an opportunity to take one more look at the Democrats. What they see and hear may not change their minds, but many here say hearing the Democrats out could shed some light on controversial issues like the welfare reform bill the president signed.
I have my opinion, but still, you listen and you get information from them, yeah.
The Democrats hope their message doesn't leave a bad taste in people's mouths. Ken Smith, WSFA News 12, Montgomery.
Dirt spots now. Look under the tree there. There's not even a sprinkling system for this grass. I was showing earlier in the center of this building.
We're going through some problems with the school system. We need medical facilities. We're hurting really bad over here in Tuskegee. All the cities around us seem to be excelling. We seem to be going nowhere. We need a change.
I'll
I voted for Mayor Ford to be back in because I had a lot of faith and trust in him. I feel that he was a very dependable man.
People of this city.
During a hastily called news conference, Mayor Ford says he's taking off the kid gloves and coming out swinging at his runoff opponent. That opponent is Ronald Williams, a former aide, now a formidable political foe. Ford plans to make Williams' character an issue.
It is a fact that Mr. Williams was convicted during the 70s for attempting to bribe a state senator. That's fact. He served time for that.
What we want to do in Tuskegee.
Williams says that incident happened when he worked for Ford 20 years ago. He says that's all behind him now. He paid his dues and is disappointed Ford continues to make it a campaign issue.
He was talking about that issue on 105.7 in the newsprint, and you see the vote. The people gave me 2-to-1 margin over him.
Mayor Ford has been in this position before. As a matter of fact, the first time he ran for mayor, he was in a runoff election and he was trailing in second place then. We all know what happened. Ford hopes history will repeat itself, but his opponent may have something to say about that. Williams and Ford agree there's a mood of change sweeping the city, but each has his own spin on what change means.
People want to change, but it makes no sense just to change to something that's not in the best interest of the city. That's not going to move the city forward.
Now, we've come a long way, but we didn't maintain what we accomplished. We have to rebuild Tuskegee.
In 3 weeks, the voters will decide which candidate gets the green light to take the mayor's seat. Ken Smith, WSFA News 12, Tuskegee.
Ashley's Prison Problems for Tia. Package 82996.
Well, earlier on this evening, they had a man that came out of the dining hall that wouldn't let him shake him down. And instead of stopping right there and probably causing a real problem when you have so many inmates moving around, they waited till later on and moved him out of the dorm into the shift commander's office. And when they had him in there, that he got a little boisterous, and some of the other inmates then started mouthing off and started a little ruckus outside.
Gilkison says one thing led to another and several fights broke out. A total of 19 people were hurt in the disturbance, all of them prisoners. Many of them were taken to Edge Regional in Troy. Most of those injuries were not serious.
Prison officials say all the fighting began around 7 or 7:30, but by 9 o'clock there was a lockdown situation and everything was calm.
All through the night, security has been extra tight. Ashley Anderson, WSFA News 12, Clio.
What's that cage thing in the back?
This is Ashley's VO Bite Prison Problem, 82996 for noon and 5.
Well, that the warden change is not for the prerogative of the inmates, so they could be, you can't tell. It's just talk.
This is the second package on the prison problem, 82996, prison problem 3. Prison officials say the trouble started early in the evening when an inmate refused to be searched after leaving the dining hall. Later, a fight ensued and several inmates became involved. The fighting spread around the dormitory area. Several ambulances were called into the prison.
11 inmates were brought immediately to Edge Memorial Hospital in Troy. All total, there are about 19 that are injured.
No officers were injured now. All the injuries were to inmates. Most of them, it appears that most of them have just some, you know, like they got hit in the head, or there's one, I understand, they got cut on the leg.
A lockdown was quickly enforced at the prison. Gilkison says the professionalism of the staff kept the situation from escalating. After about 9 p.m., Easterling once again became peaceful. Ashley Anderson, WSFA News 12, Clio.
The 3-year infant mortality rates by county. What you'll find is that the highest infant mortality rate over the 3-year period from 1993. In summary, we've got some real progress in our infant mortality rates statewide. We've got progress in the right direction in our major cities. We've got progress in earlier access and more adequate access to prenatal care. We've got progress in decreasing percentages of women who smoke. We, however, have real problems in 2 areas. One of those we talked about before, and that is the percentage of births to teenagers remains unacceptably high at about 18.5%.
Can't help the people that they work with you. You know, who can you help? I'm looking forward to going and seeing how the other agencies work and working with our sister companies and doing the best to help everybody out there.
President Clinton is already enjoying a lead in the polls over his presidential opponent, Bob Dole. But there are 2 months left, and the situation in Iraq could become a factor. Right now, the president has widespread support for his actions, but if the situation intensifies and ground troops are called in, his support could quickly diminish.
That's a whole different matter. If ground troops are sent in and there are a lot of losses for American soldiers, American participants, then that could be very disastrous. And certainly if it's perceived that this would be long, drawn-out involvement, then that would be, I think, a very negative impact on the president. And I think the president is very unlikely to get into a situation like that before November.
Actions involving the military are supposed to be non-political, but in an election year, many voters see most moves by the president as political. But in this case, at least some voters locally say politics weren't a factor.
No. We have to do something. We can't let him keep going. We can't let him keep pushing and taking that inch and inch and inch, because eventually he's going to have that mile he needs. So, no, I just think the timing was very good for Clinton, but I don't think it was politically motivated.
There's so much going on. You can't just look at him and say he's the one that pushed the button and said go do this and go do that. You know, it's more than him.
The real long-term effects have yet to be seen. Moody says he doesn't see it playing a factor in the election, and many of the potential voters we spoke with agreed. They say they've already made up their minds.
Will it affect the way you vote? Probably would.
You'll vote for the president then?
No, Bob, though.
It won't affect. I was going to vote for Clinton anyway. I was going to vote for Clinton. I think he's doing a good job. You know, despite what a lot of people say as far as the debt and everything, I still was going to vote for Clinton.
I don't think anybody could persuade me to vote for him right now. I couldn't support the Democratic platform.
We have ample time yet to get everybody out as of right now.
It's 6:30 Thursday morning. 25 emergency medical technicians and paramedics are getting ready to help people in Charleston, South Carolina move out of Hurricane Fran's way. 2 of those people are from Greenville, 1 from Montgomery, and 4 from Foley. After driving all night long to get here and a brief morning meeting, they're ready to start their job.
We're right now getting ready to evacuate people out of the nursing homes and out of homes that are unable to go. They're like on ventilators, and we're going to take them to wherever they designate.
We are moving them to the hospital. What wing is Ms. Orr on?
In all, 250 people in nursing homes need to be evacuated today. There are 100 here at this nursing home. Our Montgomery crew is part of the team responsible for moving them to a hospital which is about 5 miles away. What do you think the hardest part of your job will be?
Being able to stay awake during the whole thing, but I'm sure they're going to keep us busy enough to do that. They said they're going to give us a little bit of downtime to get some rest, but not knowing where to go is going to be hard if we have a patient that goes bad on us or something.
But so far, people are being brought here just as a precaution instead of a necessity.
For many people, it's the only way and most convenient way to shop. Use somebody else's money, then pay for it at the end of the month. But according to statistics gathered by Equifax, an Atlanta-based credit reporting company, 9.2% of adults in Montgomery are delinquent on their credit card bills. Other cities in the state didn't fare much better. Of 231 cities checked nationwide, Birmingham comes in at number 163 on the list. Mobile ranked 221st, and Montgomery was near the bottom at 229th.
The problem is credit cards can be just a little too convenient. You find something you like, but you don't have the cash. So you reach in your pocket and pull out the plastic. Before you know it, you're overextended.
It's a consumer just overloads himself. There's such an opportunity now that to obtain credit, and the interest rates are low, so they go out and they get overloaded, and then finally they realize they can't pay all the debts.
Often, it's the young who find themselves in this situation. They don't have a credit history or experience and soon fall into what some say is a trap.
Well, I needed some extra money, and just because I basically just wanted it. And the credit card companies advertise very well in colleges because they know that we'll fall into that trap, and I did.
And how far into the trap did you fall?
They gave me a limit, or approved me just like that, for $1,200, and I spent it all.
And how did you get out of it? How tough was it to get out?
Oh, very tough. I'm actually still paying that credit card off. I pay over the minimum. Usually that's all that I can afford right now, just graduating. And so it's going to take me a while to pay it off, but I don't use that card anymore, and that's the key to it.
Another key is pay off the entire bill each month, if you can. And no matter how tempting it is, if you can't afford it, don't buy it, even on credit. B.J. Davis, WSFA News 12, Montgomery.
And what are they raise it for the hourly? Well, I hope they get educated a bit on all the good things that go on through the various agencies that constitute the United Way. They're just needs that are served throughout the community, and things I think the public can learn from and benefit from.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item up.
Superintendent to apply for technology funds from the State Board of Education's Alabama
school officials as to how we could, we're focusing this proposal to our 6 academic alert schools that have a heavy concentration. Almost the entire student body qualifies as disadvantaged.
Looked like they used combustibles on the scene, such as clothing. And it's my understanding that the church had received a lot of clothing to be given away at a later date. They just had not gotten around to it. They used those, plus they set 2 large garbage cans on fire at different areas of the building. First arriving units saw heavy flames coming from the rear of the building. Noted that the one set of doors was open at that time, which led us to believe forcible entry. After extinguishing the fire, we found multiple points of origin, which further led us to believe that arson was the case at this scene.
We're going to rebuild and not going to let it slow us down, you know. There's a purpose, and God's going to be with us, so we're not looking down, we're looking up.
Yeah, the way they went about it, without getting too deep into the case, just the way that they went about the break-ins, the way they set the fires, leads us to believe that it was probably teenagers.
We're going to have to see what the insurance will do, if we're going to gut it out and rebuild or build another building. We hadn't got to that yet.
Golly, with rubber gloves, and for long I got so much sweat on the inside of the glove I can't even feel it. But check it, see, much less taking blood out of one, so and kill them. Really? So that's the reason why they exactly right. That's exactly right. Of the camp. And don't put this on there, I'm just telling you this. I gave him, told him that he had some positives, and he put together a little bulletin that he gives to all the campers about wearing DEET, and just the precaution things to do. Yeah. Stick out your hands, okay? And just kind of rub it together. Get it up on your face, around your ears. That's what I think.
Go mosquito hunting.
Absolutely.
And when you go mosquito hunting in southern Alabama, you better wear insect repellent. Why? These are sentinel chickens. They're placed in various parts of the county and checked weekly to see if they carry the Eastern Equine Encephalitis virus. Ballard Crudup supervises the program. He's found sentinel chickens carrying the virus in Andalusia, Opp, Florala, and the Baker community. The virus does not harm the chicken, but it is an excellent indicator of the infected mosquitoes in the area.
An infected mosquito must bite a bird and then an uninfected mosquito must bite the same bird that was infected before they can transfer the disease to either a horse or an emu or even a person. We have had no cases in Covenant County of any animal cases of encephalitis.
But in Baldwin, Escambia, and Geneva counties, 3 horses and 3 emus were found with encephalitis since mid-June. Ballard traps mosquitoes and sends them to Mobile for testing.
People don't realize there are over 57 different species of mosquitoes in Alabama, even the big ones that we always call mosquitoes, but also what we call no-see-ums.
Wherever and whenever there's an outbreak of encephalitis from across the country, the folks at the health department tell us to wear insect repellent. Now, that's an important lesson that bears repeating. Ballard recommends a brand that has diethyltoluamide, commonly known as DEET.
Try not to be out late in the afternoon at dusk or at dawn. That's when the mosquitoes are most active. If you have to be out, think about wearing some long sleeves, long pants, some tightly woven clothes.
Mosquitoes also like perfumes, colognes, and dark clothing. Avoid them and you'll avoid mosquitoes. This is the first year of the testing program, so it's too early to tell if the amount of chickens testing positive is high or low for the border counties. But until winter comes and the mosquito population goes dormant, keep that bug repellent handy. Chris Garrett, WSFA News 12, Covington County.
Technology throughout the school system is something that we have not had the money to invest in. So if we're able to spend this money for technology in those schools will be ahead as opposed to behind. We're approaching this as a technology grant. The guidelines from the state speak of technology. They specify the 3 areas: hardware, software, and training. And so rather than looking at it as a Goals 2000 grant, we're looking at it as a technology grant. And we're looking at it as the first money available to us to fund the Montgomery Public Schools technology plan. I think that the addition of technology in those classrooms and training for the teachers on using technology and integrating technology into the learning environment would be a significant boost.
Friends who visited the 48-year-old state senator confirmed he complained of a headache 2 nights ago. Shortly after that, he passed out and was rushed to University of South Alabama Hospital. Those who know about his reported ailment say most people don't know they have an aneurysm until it bursts. That's one of the things neurosurgeon Dr. John Peden does, is operate on patients who have it.
Is it caused from lack of exercise? Is
No.
it caused from lack of poor diet? Is it caused
No.
from old age?
No, it's not from any of these things. It's just a weakness that's in that part of the brain.
We all have weak areas in our brains. However, only a few people develop aneurysms there. It happens when blood fills up that weak section of the blood vessels and forms a balloon. And sometimes when it fills up, the worst happens, it bursts, causing blood to pass all through the brain.
Mostly when the aneurysm ruptures, you have a terrible headache, usually the worst headache you ever had in your life. Nausea, vomiting, neck stiffness, all these things go along with it.
It happens without warning, and nothing can be done to prevent it. Aneurysms usually occur in people in their 30s or 40s, but they have been found in teenagers. And there are some people who get the balloon, and it just stays there.
How long can a person have that balloon in there before it bursts?
Nobody knows that.
So
It may have
you
been
could
there
have
for
one,
years.
or I could have one
We may well have one and don't know about it.
for years?
Yes?
But when and if they do burst and cause unconsciousness, Dr. Peden says those patients rarely survive. Eileen Jones, WSFA News 12, Montgomery.
I can just thank God that he got us out of there before he hit us. He hit us about 2 or 3 minutes after we left the vehicle.
Come to your senses. I mean, my efforts against Alabama Power Company Utilities is one thing, but being made of a damn fool in front of my eyes is something altogether different.
I'm still optimistic that
Taking money from such an organization would be the best thing to do. In this case, we'll back to 19.
Senator Bedford, I call on you to explain the mob money. Mr. Bedford seems to be politically driven rather than principle driven. Make any association, form any alliance, be what any group wants him to be in order to promote his political career.
That the people have a right to know who makes contributions to the campaigns back to 1986. And I don't know that Senator Bedford has perfected President Clinton's technique of crying out of one eye on cue, but I'm sure he's working on it.
and neglected children.
Is a system where counties are given an immediate, something like an immediate and serious danger
Adequately for children who are in their... We will vigorously defend their rights against the state in order to secure the rights that we have secured and in order to ensure that those rights will be fulfilled in the future. For you, I have copies of a letter from an attorney who represents when the consent decree was being negotiated and said. In Mobile County today, there are over years now. This is my co-counsel, Ira Burnham. We cannot imagine a more harmful step that could be taken with regard to the best interest of these children, and we will vigorously defend their rights against the state in order to secure the rights that we have secured and in order to ensure that those rights will be fulfilled in the future.
Well, we have documents now that lawyers would not have had 10 years ago that are very incriminating to the tobacco industry. Tobacco companies have been very successful in keeping these documents out of the hands of lawyers and out of the hands of consumer advocates over the years, but that time is over. Now the documents are common knowledge and people know how bad the conduct has been by the tobacco companies and how they have really misled the American people and how they've really lied to the American people and literally killed 500,000 people per year, and that's a lot of folks.
On. So I cannot hold him responsible, but I'm mad in keeping with the finest tradition of the press that y'all tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
We'd also like to thank WBAM.
Congratulations.
Cody cannot be with us today. I believe Brent's going to accept the award on his behalf. Kane and all the events and relay it all back to us. We would also like to honor these people at this time also. Miss Alex Wisetrack.
It should not come from a consent decree. It should come from an act of the legislature. Very simple. It got nothing to do with my people or anybody else's people. When you make determinations of how a government agency is to be organized or structured, that should come from the legislature, not from a lawsuit.
We'll have enough officers here to handle any eventuality. I'm not saying anything is totally safe in this world anymore, but it'll be as safe as the Montgomery Police Department can make it. I will be here, Dr. Eberhardt will be here, the Chief of Police will be here. We're saying to any troublemaker, would-be troublemaker that's planning on coming to this ball game tonight, beware, because you're going to be punished suddenly and swiftly if you create a problem.
People want to get involved with the organization. They want to make their voice heard. They want to do their part. They're tired of sitting back and watching our generation go down.
Auburn gymnastics coach Robert Dillard left his office shortly before the LSU game, just wearing a warm-up, his keys and wallet sitting on his desk. This is what's left of his desk, his file cabinet, and his office. He knew one day the old barn would be taken down, but not this soon.
I was hoping to be able to pull my truck up here and get some of that wood out of it.
Coach Dillard now says 4 days later, the team and coaches are starting to think about the positive to the upcoming season, not dwell on a fire.
We have certainly gotten a lot of publicity out of that, and we know that. We didn't want to get it that way. We'd rather win the national championship and get that much.
However, the attention focused by the nationally televised fire has brought support from companies, individuals, even other schools, everyone wanting to donate. Auburn had been planning to announce a new facility in the new year, but now you can expect that announcement before Christmas.
At least for the next season, the gymnastics team will be practicing here. It's what the athletes commonly refer to as the hot box. It's the auxiliary gym. But Coach Dillard says his gymnasts have a burning desire to win this season no matter where they practice.
I said, this is about the first time I can remember in 11 years that I out-mediated Alabama, but I had to burn the barn down to do it. So.
The gymnastics team is in conditioning training right now and will start hitting the bars and vaults in a few weeks. In the not-too-distant future, they'll have their own new facility where they can make a little history for themselves. Chris Garrett, WSFA News 12, Auburn.
The girls picked up on that, and I told them after a couple of days, girls, start losing your emotion and let's start focusing in, because the building we cannot retrieve, the memories we have, but what we got to do is we got to go on and set the future for Auburn gymnastics. So.
This notice of appeal. This is an electric typewriter in good condition, in good alignment, that you request with the federal court to allow us to take the deposition testimony of the FBI agents who were involved in submitting to lie in a search warrant application. We have positive proof in this case that they submitted perjured testimony, and therefore discretionary immunity does not apply, and we should be allowed by the federal court to take this case to trial.
I lost my business. We lost our home. My family split up. We lost our automobiles. We lost our home, everything. Simply because of the pressure that the FBI put us under, the scrutiny, the embarrassment. My health over $10,000 with medical bills from bleeding ulcer 10 months later, and just one thing led to another one.
Able to put this out of your life?
I hope so.
Condition in good alignment that Mr. O'Farrell used to type this notice of appeal with the federal court to allow us to take the deposition testimony of the FBI investigation at this time to admit. We were originally seeking $20 million in damages as a result of this newly discovered evidence. We are now requesting $50 million in compensatory damages and $100 million in punitive damages against the government of the United States.
I lost my business. We lost our home. My family split up. We lost our automobiles. We lost our home, everything. Simply because of the pressure that the FBI put us under, the scrutiny, the embarrassment.
Votes should they be counted or shouldn't they be counted? These were absentee ballots that weren't with up, and well,
I think all teens over 18 should get out and vote and have a voice in what's going to happen in their future.
We've had races decided by one vote. We've had statewide races decided by under 300 votes. So young people really could make the difference in who wins and loses. And I think once they understand that.
We're north of the boulevard. Can't find our motel where she's supposed to be at.
Hey, man. Hey, they the paramedics. They tried to help you. I understand.
Let me see this on. Alright, partner. Look at me. Let me see this on. I'm gonna lighten that up for you in just a second. I gotta get this done, okay? You just need to relax, alright? Just relax.
They're helping you out, man. It's always sad to me.
We started a search this morning. We've got ground crews out. We've also got boats in the water looking along the banks to see if they can locate the subject. At this time, we don't know whether he is drowned or whether he had possibly got out of his boat and may be lost in the woods.
Shocked me, you know, and I said, well, I'll start looking for ID. I started shaking, I was looking, looked in there. Everywhere I looked, I found money. So I quit counting at $20,000.
Tommy Beard is a manager at the food fair in Alex City. As a manager, he handles just about everything in the store, keeping the shelves looking good, collecting the carts, taking care of the day's receipts. One day, one of his employees came to him with something for lost and found.
The lady that scans the displays in the store, she came up to the office and she brought a purse with her and she said, I have found this purse in the bathroom and I need to return it to a manager. And usually customers will bring them to the office and leave them here and then go, but she insisted that she give it to a manager, so I took her down in the office and let her talk to Mr. Beard.
The three of them placed the purse on the floor and looked inside for a clue as to the owner. Staring back at them was a bunch of cash.
And I said, whoa. I said, let's find some ID. And I was just shaking. Opened one more envelope. I looked up and I said, man, there's more money in here. I opened it up. 3 or 4 more envelopes. Every envelope I opened, more money.
By the time it was over, there was more than $20,000 in it. That's when Beard stopped counting. $20,000. What could you do with $20,000? Well, one thing is for sure, you could fill your cereal bowl for the rest of your life. They also found some Social Security checks inside the purse. Beard announced the name over the loudspeaker, and an elderly woman came and claimed the purse.
I said, well, you need to thank this lady right here. She's the one that found it in the ladies' bathroom. If she hadn't been a good Christian woman, she might not have turned it in.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Everybody wanted to know why somebody would keep that kind of cash in their purse. The woman's son told Beard his mother hasn't trusted banks since before the Depression. But one thing is for sure, now she can trust her corner grocer. Chris Garrett, WSFA News 12, Alex City.
It was obvious that she had been beaten about the face and head with what we later discovered was a metal object. She was beaten with that, but an autopsy did show that the cause of death was strangulation.
Last Thursday, friends and neighbors tried to get into this house to see 43-year-old Martha Ann McGee. Looking through the window, they saw her lying on the floor.
The body was discovered by friends and relatives who were unable to get the lady to the door. Once they peered inside the house here, they saw the body as it was left inside the house.
McGee was severely beaten about the head with a metal object. However, an autopsy showed she was strangled. A cloth towel was found wrapped around her neck, the other end tied to a door. Police began their investigation. But late Saturday night, officials were called to this address again. It was burning. The fire was man-made. It began in the late woman's bedroom, and only quick action by the fire department kept it from being a total loss. Police aren't sure there is a connection between the murder and fire, but they are anxious to get information about the fire because it could lead to the killer.
I won't say that we're close to an arrest yet, but we do have some leads that we're following up on, and some of the neighbors and the community has been rather helpful to us in giving us some leads to follow up on.
Police say this neighborhood is a high drug trafficking area, and because of that, they say some residents are fearful to come forward with information. Chris Garrett, WSFA News 12, Dothan.
We measured the speed of right at 9,000 vehicles, and the average speed through there is about 54.7 miles an hour. That's what your average car is running. Now that takes into consideration you do have some running over the speed limit and some running a great deal lower.
Kiddalee Kimball is filling up after one of her regular treks on Highway 231. She was relieved when the new lower speed limit went into effect.
I go at least once a week, maybe twice a week to Montgomery. So I felt safe.
But even before two fatal accidents on this stretch of highway, the Department of Transportation was studying motorists' driving habits. Their findings were surprising.
The average speed through there is about 54.7 miles an hour. That's what your average car is running. Now that takes into consideration you do have some running over the speed limit and some running a great deal lower.
Now, putting that study in perspective, Strickland says 85% of the more than 9,000 cars clocked during that study were going 60 miles an hour, which by the current speed limit would be breaking the law. We conducted our own non-scientific test. Photographer James Harvest and I drove 55 for about a mile. And as you can see, for some motorists who whizzed by us, 55 is for slowpokes. But DOT says a lower speed limit will make some drivers think twice before putting the pedal to the metal. Mrs. Kendall, meanwhile, says she has already seen a difference in some drivers.
But I'm just glad to see everybody being careful.
Drivers might want to take Mrs. Kendall's advice because they never know when those smokies will be waiting for them just over the hill. Ken Smith, WSFA News 12, Wetumpka.
Got two questions on that.
Attorney General Jeff Sessions had his turn on the hot seat while members of the Legislative Contract Review Committee questioned him about his contracts with outside lawyers. The Attorney General's office says it spent more than $20 million last year for legal help from private attorneys. And committee members not only wanted to know why, but also who.
These are the firms that the biggest and best corporations in Alabama use for the most part.
We have one of the largest minority law firms in the state here in Montgomery, and I don't think they're doing an ounce of state business at this time.
Representative John Knight not only wants to know why more African-American law firms aren't hired, but why there aren't more African-American vendors, period. Sessions says the minority law firm Knight was questioning was under contract with the state, but it was discontinued under the present Bob James administration.
We approved them to continue to do work for the state when I became Attorney General, and at some point the governor decided to make a change on the litigation because there was a disagreement over the litigation.
And if you've noticed, the two candidates in the U.S. Senate race are both in the same room. That means political sparks were flying while State Senator Roger Bedford questioned Sessions about his hiring of outside lawyers who contributed to his campaign.
As a matter of fact, I've seen a list of 30 people on state contract that have contributed to you, Roger. I'm not saying
glad you've been prepared by the Attorney General's office to try to defend him. I'm trying to ask about contract review business.
What you're doing, Roger, is you're trying to politic at this committee's expense. I've got the floor right now, Senator. I was recognized. Now you've interrupted.
It was a storm few people will ever forget. Packing sustained winds of 125 miles per hour with gusts up to 145, Opal slammed into the Florida Panhandle October 4th, 1995. The seashore looked as though a huge wrecking ball had been rolled along the beach. Homes, both vacation and permanent residences, were reduced to rubble. At the time, many people didn't know if they would rebuild.
My wife likes the beach, and so we decided to go ahead and just rebuild and wait for the next one.
For many homeowners, repair was not an option. Buildings had to be torn down because they weren't safe. Life has pretty much returned to normal here along the Gulf Coast. Most of the buildings that were damaged or destroyed during Opal have been repaired or rebuilt. There are, however, a few of those buildings, like the one you see behind me, that need to be torn down because they've been condemned. Building contractors say tough new codes have been enacted to try to help prevent this kind of destruction again.
The different codes and stuff we got to go back with now on the buildings and stuff. Engineering is, like all the straps and stuff you see on the building is for wind loads and stuff like that. And it's really, these buildings here take a little bit better than the older buildings.
Contractors have been swamped since the hurricane. The problem is they were swamped before the hurricane, and now it's hard to keep up.
How busy have you been?
Pretty busy. Just about everybody's busy. You can't find quality help, really, in the construction industry.
Despite the devastation, people are rebuilding and building for the first time. People like Brad and Kristen Strange. When do you expect to be in the house?
End of January.
Is this going to be a permanent residence?
Yep.
So it doesn't faze you in the least. You're ready to
We're
ready
not
to face
scared.
it year round.
Yeah. That's what, buy the most insurance you can and take the chance. That's what we're doing, and everybody else out here on the island also.
And with Mother Nature, it is taking a chance. We've had 9 storms so far this year. 5 have become hurricanes. And there's another month left in hurricane season. On the Gulf Coast, Barry Davis, WSFA News 12.
Hand out of your pocket.
If you don't give up, almost nothing's impossible.
Truer words have never been spoken about Wanda Taylor. Taylor is simply mad about the mouse. In the last 3 years, she's seen her Mickey Mouse collection grow to more than 1,200 pieces. She admits her hobby got a little bit out of hand.
It went haywire. According to my husband, I was nuts. My daughter in Fort Worth, Texas, says that I was certifiable. Matter of fact, mentioned there were doctors that would help my cases like mine.
But Taylor's romance with a rodent has garnered her an invitation to display her collection next year at Disney World. She has Mickey books and plates, but her passion is Mickey figurines. And it was this Mickey, the first Mickey she saw as a child, that got the collection started. But her aunt owned it and wouldn't let it go.
A couple of years ago, she decided to let me have it, and that really sparked my collection going again.
Since then, Taylor has only spent about $600 on her hobby. Most of the Mickeys she picks up at garage sales and flea markets, some for a dime, maybe a quarter. She has an original Mouseketeer hat and a few other rare items, but the ones that mean the most are the Mickeys that come with a story.
And he's moth-eaten, and his arm is about tore off. But you can tell that a child played with him and loved him. He's still got a smile on his face. He's ready to have fun.
And so is Wanda Taylor, as long as Mickey Mouse is around.
Bye-bye. See you next time.
Chris Garrett, WSFA News 12, Enterprise.
And we have them from several eras. This piece, the Jack-in-the-Box, with the pipe. Isn't this great? Our children would at least eat maybe Raisin Bran with the metal bells and the little disc and the plastic that would shatter. The shuttle was taking off. It's cast iron, and what makes it even more nifty is it's a solid piece.
Really?
It's not put together. It was molded.
Wow, it's heavy.
Yeah, cast iron.
Wow.
I almost didn't buy this one because as far as looking at him with the yellow eyes and the blushing pink face, I didn't find him a very attractive Mickey and almost didn't purchase him, but picked him up in Louisiana on one of my trips. And over here, we have little cake decorations. Now these were from the 1940s, 1950s, 1960s. Not sure exactly the age, but in
my resignation in, fire department, and EMS personnel, and I thank you.
Oh, that's getting so good.
I'm headed mayor, and they're doing a great thing.
Well, we've got executive session. I give you 5 minutes.
He's the chief, had done such a good job. He had a lot of good friends by the evidence y'all saw last night. Those were his friends, his dedicated friends, and they used to be my friends. They're going to be my friends again if they let me, because like I told you, they're good people. We got good people on our fire department. They've just been misled or misinformed.
It's no longer a community of people together. Everybody's pulling against everybody now. And I would like to officially turn my resignation in.
This was the scene at Notasulga City Hall last night. Volunteer firefighters turning in their resignation in support of their boss. The council voted 4-1 against reappointing police and fire chief Tommy Miller after an 8-year stint. Mayor Cecil Langford and Miller had been at odds for some time for what Langford calls personality conflicts. Langford resigned his office last January, in part because of differences with Miller, but was reelected last August.
I started getting information that I possibly would not be reappointed, and I've talked to him about it, and he says he can't just quite put his finger on it, but it's just something that he feels like he needs to do, so he had it done tonight.
The frustration of Miller supporters was apparent. 2 police officers resigned this morning, and more firefighters may follow.
One of the big concerns, what if there is a fire? Will there be enough volunteer firefighters to take care of it? Well, despite how heated things got at last night's meeting, the mayor believes if the call comes in, the men will come.
Volunteer Fire Chief Mike Whitman says he would like the council and fire department to meet to work out their differences. Langford says he spoke to the volunteer chief last night.
He has told me, he is ill and upset, but he has told me he's going to stay on, and these people, they're going to come. If they hear that fire, if they get the call, they're going to come. I'm not worried about it. They're not going to be mad enough at Mayor Langford to let your house burn down. You can rest assured of that.
Chris Garrett, WSFA News 12, Notasulga.
They're not the run-of-the-mill people. They are good Christians, and they...
An FBI agent came to the jail approximately a year and a half ago and told me that I had been selected to be prosecuted for the mail bomb crimes because I had a profile that they could sell to a jury.
The names and faces of those who make news locally came to hear the man who is known worldwide. Some who are retiring from Congress were here, along with those who are trying to get there.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Vice President of the United States.
He came to Alabama not only to endorse Democrat Roger Bedford in his bid for the Senate, but to talk about the Family Medical Leave Act.
I personally know a number of people who have been fired because they chose their families at a time of crisis and stress instead of staying on the job.
Under the 3-year-old law, businesses of more than 50 employees have to grant workers up to 12 weeks time off for serious illnesses, a birth, or an adoption in their family.
I was surprised. I didn't know that Jack Kemp had come out saying that he was opposed to it.
But Democrats fear trouble may be on the horizon. Republicans are threatening to repeal the law. So this panel of employees and employers who support the law discussed its merits.
But the other thing that it has done for us, that I think we lose sight of, and that I think the people who oppose the Family Medical Leave Act lose sight of, is that it also continues health insurance benefits. The portion that we're paying now, we continue to pay.
After this event, the vice president goes to a fundraiser here in Birmingham where it costs anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000 a person. And then from here, he goes to Tennessee, where he plans to raise more money. Eileen Jones, WSFA News 12, Birmingham. It is estimated about 100 people will fill this room at 8 o'clock tonight, and they won't be here stuffing envelopes. They will come to the Atlantic Crossing Republican headquarters to cheer on their candidate. All that's needed now are the chairs and the snacks, and the rooting will begin.
I'd like to see Bob Dole come out tough. I'd like him to be aggressive, talk the issues. I like him.
Observers say it's time for Bob Dole to go on the attack if he wants to win the debate tonight. Here in Alabama, polls show him running a tight race with the president.
It's going to take work. It was work when we worked to elect George Bush. We carried the state by 7 or 8% then, and I believe with you see all the people working hard today, and we'll continue to work to the end of the campaign.
I was just calling to let you know that we're planning a debate watch party for this evening at 7 o'clock p.m. It's going to be held in the Clinton Gore headquarters, which is located on...
Campaign workers at the Democratic headquarters are busy setting up for their debate party, too. They are expecting about 50 people to come to their Dexter Avenue office to pull for the president.
Time and time again, most polls indicate that Bill Clinton, according to most Americans, comes across as a very compassionate man. I want that to come across tonight.
Locally, the candidates are vying for 9 electoral votes here in Alabama. Eileen Jones, WSFA News 12, Montgomery. Sheriff's deputies say McQueen called 911 around 11:30 this morning and said he was having marital problems and that he was armed and about to kill himself. Hostage negotiators spent the next 5 hours trying to talk McQueen out of it. But after that didn't work, they resorted to gas.
Basically, they gained entry by putting gas underneath the door, and this gas, incapacitates him, and we took him into custody at that point.
During the 5-hour standoff, more than 25 members of the Sheriff's Department's Special Operations Unit surrounded the roadway in apartments in Hope Hull. That's where deputies believe McQueen has been living for the past 3 months. When he finally surrendered and deputies recovered his pistol, they say it was loaded and cocked. He will remain in the mental hospital until he's evaluated, and in the meantime, the crowd that had gathered to witness the standoff was relieved.
I'm glad that they didn't kill the man because the man didn't deserve it, okay? Maybe he was just lost off in the mind. He needs some help, okay? We all get like that once in a while.
The reason why I'm concerned is because if these people can stay here, we as general public should be able to stay here.
We were trying to give him every opportunity to come out and just resolve the situation in that way, but as time wore on, we didn't want to take any more chances with his life or any of our officers' lives, so we just had to make the decision to go on in and make entry and take him into custody.
this ribbon. Spread out now. Take it and go with it. We ask everybody who was willing to say they were drug-free to come and join and help us to put the ribbon all the way around the block. So all students, teachers, and staff came out, and we joined to say that we're drug-free.
Two-month payment was
getting them from situations where they're now in group homes or living with parents and other family members. And I can tell you, as a parent of a young adult with disabilities, I'm excited that my son and others like him would have that opportunity in the future.
I think this is wonderful because it allows people with disabilities to be able to afford their own homes, to live in their own homes, and to be able to have a community environment instead of living in a more congregate living arrangement.
May probably be able to give you something.
We need to keep control of the United States House of Representatives. It burns me up. It burns me up to hear our president taking credit for everything that the Republican-controlled House of Representatives did.
Former President George Bush electrified the 6,000 Republican faithful at a midday rally in Huntsville today. For them, the presidential race may be over, but maintaining control of the Congress is paramount in their minds.
This Senate race in Alabama takes on national and international implications because if the Democrats control the Senate, Ted Kennedy chairs the Labor Committee. Do you want that to happen? Joseph Biden chairs the Judiciary Committee.
Privately, Republican campaign insiders say if they want to keep Congress, they must win Alabama. That's Wayne Parker in the 5th Congressional District and Robert Aderholt in the 4th Congressional District and Jeff Sessions in the Senate. Bush was the Attorney General's boss back when he was U.S. Attorney.
His opponent can talk about it. His opponent can blow on about what he thinks, but here's a man that's done it. Here's a man that's lived the values of the state of Alabama, and you're lucky to have him as your candidate, and we will all be lucky to have him as the senator.
The former president stressed how important it was that the Republicans keep control of both houses of Congress. He says the last 4 years would have been very different if he had the same type of control.
We need to keep control of the United States House of Representatives. It burns me up. It burns me up to hear our president taking credit for everything that the Republican-controlled House of Representatives did.
Next for Sessions, a rally with actor Charlton Heston in Birmingham. He's hoping the man who played Moses can help deliver him to the promised land of Washington. Covering the Sessions campaign, Chris Garrett, WSFA News 12, Huntsville.
Wife Brenda, my daughter Mary. I will read a brief in the child custody proceedings record. They called the friend and said,
I've had it with the political ads. This Supreme Court race boils down to just one thing. Do you want a guy who's never even passed the Alabama bar exam to judge your case?
It was a cellular phone number. She tried calling. I went through a divorce over 20 years ago. It was sad and difficult for everyone involved. I met all my obligations to my family, financial and otherwise, and remained close to my children. There was no affair. I did not date one of my students. It has become apparent that Ingram doesn't care about the truth.
Some things you can smell a mile away.
Candidates are blasting their opponents left and right in the political ads. And they're also personal. The latest ad to cause a stir in Harold C.'s camp criticizes his personal life.
He moved here from Chicago because of some domestic problems.
C. reacted by calling a news conference with his wife and oldest daughter by his side.
I went through a divorce over 20 years ago. It was sad and difficult for everyone involved. I met all my obligations to my family, financial and otherwise, and remained close to my children. There was no affair. I did not date one of my students. It has become apparent that Ingram doesn't care about the truth.
Kenneth Ingram's camp passed out copies of court documents to prove that C.'s former wife claimed mental cruelty. But C.'s daughter answered that with a statement from her mother.
I now recognize that the unfortunate statements Harold and I made to each other, some of which were repeated in pleadings, had no basis in fact, but grew out of anger and the hurt of the moment.
And there are also ads questioning C.'s judicial qualifications.
Harold C. has never even passed the Alabama bar exam.
C.'s workers say he's never passed the bar because he never took it. In the past, graduates of the University of Alabama and those who taught there didn't have to take the bar. Now Ingram's camp is upset.
The most agonizing 3 days of my life was spent right down here at the Montgomery Civic Center taking the bar exam. And I don't understand why someone could be on the Supreme Court through a legal loophole that allows him to be there and not go through the same agonizing 3 days of exam that I did.
To avoid this kind of conduct from happening again, the former head of the State Bar Association thinks judges should be nominated by a citizens commission, and the governor should appoint from that list.
That person serves for a designated term. At the end of that term, there is an election as to whether to retain that judge or not to retain that judge. He doesn't run against anybody.
It's pretty bad, about as bad damage-wise as you can get.
From the surface, it looks like a construction site, but underground, utility crews are struggling with delicate wiring.
You know, we have to identify each individual wire from both the central office and from the customers. So it's a slow process.
These workers are trying to restore phone service to some 8,000 desperate residents.
This has just made it real inconvenient for us because now we don't even have a phone to use.
So what are you having to do?
having to load the children up, go to the pay phone to use the phone, and all the neighbors and everything have been without service.
Meanwhile, utility crews find themselves battling the clock at the mercy of Mother Nature.
One of the main concerns out here is the inclement weather that's moving in. You can see the clouds as they approach. So utility crews have used a plastic covering to shield the workers 8 feet underground who are working around the clock to restore your phone service.
That's the main thing we're fighting right now is the weather that's coming in tonight. We're supposed to have some rain, and we're trying to get ready for it. So, because this stuff, if it gets wet, it's right back out again. So that's a pretty big problem.
While utility crews continue sweating it out underground, they need one thing from the folks affected by the outage: your patience. Beth Jett, WSFA News 12, Montgomery.